Well, some news breaking here on this Tuesday afternoon, just 3 days away from the March 8th trade deadline from Darren Draker. Sources say the Penguins are hoping to have a trade in place for Jake Guentzel by tomorrow evening. Pittsburgh is open to quality over quantity in return, but would like a first young NHL player, plus prospects. Flexibility comes in the caliber, Canadian, of prospect or roster player. Now this from Chris Johnston with the Canucks believed to be among those pursuing Jake Guentzel. Word is they've had discussions about potentially flipping Elias Lindholm to the Bruins as part of the way to make it happen, we'll say here. Nothing concrete in place at this time. Still lots of moving
Machinations, I believe.
Yeah, I was like, what are we doing here, guys? I am hooked on phonics, and we're not going beyond like 2-syllable words. What do you guys make of this news, especially you just traveled?
I refuse to believe
road trip.
I refuse to believe it. I know. Yeah, I mean, this is that is the thing. This is a franchise here that is in a tough spot with this player because they love him, would love to have him in the future. But they're also at this crossroads where you're talking about a player on roster that would fetch you something to help change the fortunes of what you are and who you are right now. It's him.
Yeah.
So we'll see what ends up playing out here. Man, I've been in denial with this the whole time, even though it kind of feels like that's the move they have to make. We'll see what happens in the next little bit. I mean, regardless if it happens in the next 24 hours, like those tweets said, I mean, the deadline's Friday. You know, it's Tuesday, so it's not very long.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting few days.
Yeah, it's strange to think about because Guentzel's been such a fixture with Sid for the last little while, and I guess where there's smoke, there's fire, though, because they kept talking about his name being in rumors, and would they really do it? But I think that last road trip really sealed the deal for Kyle Dubas. So, I mean, I think Guentzel's the most impactful guy that could get traded at the deadline. I think you don't get 40 goal scorers popping in the market every now and then, and clearly Vancouver thinks he might be more impactful than Lindholm if they're willing to swap him out.
So that's crazy.
Yeah,
that leads you to kind of think like, you know, maybe this was something that he wasn't necessarily available.
Right, when Van
pulls it off, or maybe that just me completely manufacturing this, but it could be the situation is we've known that Boston has been in the market for a center. You know what I mean? And, you know, he's a flexible player that fits in a lot of ways what Vancouver wants, but sometimes beating everybody to the market and you still have decisions to make. You've got the number one, you know, commodity on the market. Now if something else pops up later, he still would be the number one center out there. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe now if there's some truth to that, I find that might be chess.
This is trade season, so this is the fun stuff that everyone conjures up all year. This is what we stay up and talk about, and I think this is great. So who knows, this might all be, you know, it's the lying season too. Everyone's trying to posture and put things out there just to get leverage or to maybe do something that they're trying to keep under the radar. But this stuff's fun to me. I don't know how they pull it off. I'm not sure what the pieces are, but this is the fun part for me.
It's fun on this side.
On this side, absolutely, yeah. We're in the dressing room. It's very stressful.
Yeah, if you're in the dressing room, you're like, what's happening? Okay, if the Pens are playing chess and Guentzel is their queen, then Lindholm is the Canucks, I don't know, king or bishop at this point in time, and he's been thrown into the mix. They could flip him to Boston 5 weeks after acquiring him?
Yeah, but that's all it. Like maybe things have changed, and it's always changing.
Yeah.
Just even think about when that Lindholm trade went down. Everyone was saying the market is set, and they gave up a lot.
He's a pawn
They
now.
gave up a lot for a rental.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see what they would get back.
And then all of a sudden it was like I thought, well, Tanev's like the number one shutdown defenseman, left defenseman. He didn't really go for as much.
No.
So it's like, you know, the market's always changing. It's when you can hit it. And Vancouver did a job of getting out before it, and now they have decisions. Now they kind of hold the cards because they've got, again, that number one center. They got it, and he might stay there and work out great for them, and he can move to wing, center, however, lines 1 through 3, wherever you want to use them. Or they could be like, the market's changed, and now we want this, and we can move them because there's still teams out there that are searching for the center that you snagged from everybody earlier on. It's interesting.
There you go. Well, guys, with that brings us to our trade target rankings. I don't know why I said that like Oprah. Maybe I just secretly want to be here one day. Okay, guys, let's start with the aforementioned Jake Guentzel. Rupper, I'll start with you. $6 million cap hit. I don't know if we talked about that. Pending UFA averages just over half a goal a game in the playoffs, tied for 8th best among players with 25-plus playoff games.
Yeah,
Big asset in postseason.
Yeah, so we're gonna rank these.
Yes.
And so I'm gonna start with my third.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Starting in
Is that what we're doing here?
Here, I'll be the voiceover. Number 3.
Number 3. All right, this is what I got. Golden Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights. They have some flexibility with their roster with some injuries that they've had, LTIR space. I mean, I wonder what Jake Guentzel would look like on that roster. I mean, they've got
good.
What's that? Yeah,
Pretty good.
Pretty good. I mean, Jake Guentzel is hey, people may not know this, don't watch him on a nightly basis, but like he's self-sufficient. Like Sid has made him what he is, but he also can
Do it himself.
do it himself.
Yeah.
That line
Like
is
that's what makes those two
nasty.
so nasty together.
That's
but,
ridiculous.
Yeah, but like look at that would look pretty good.
Yeah.
And
okay.
then number 2, I got this is a team every year that's trying to look for that next guy out there. The LA Kings. The LA Kings are one where they've got some issues with Adrian Kempe. Where are they going with some of this? Just trying to keep adding in their team in go now mode. I believe that they're going to be a very tough out, and I think that would be, and probably all of these would just be a rental situation for Jake. So I mean that would be certainly one, and then my last one's Carolina because they're a team that need like a
goal scorer, right?
Right, like
Yeah.
he's a 40-goal guy. I wouldn't necessarily call him a sniper just from standing there and in the same spot of the ice and shooting. He's a smart player. He's very intelligent. He gets to the
Scoring
net,
different
scores
ways.
a lot of goals, man.
Yeah.
So those are my 3.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty similar to yours, so I won't belabor the point on a few of them. But I think I had Carolina as my number 1 as well, just because, they have such a great. There we go. Golden Knights, like you said, great fit. They're always in on everybody, not afraid to make the big move to bring in the right player.
The Isles.
I think the Islanders, if they're going to make it, they need some wing help. They got a lot of depth down the middle with Nelson, Horvat, Barzal, but they need some wingers who can consistently score to boost their offense. But yeah, I agree with the Hurricanes. They got a great team, a great group, but come playoff time, they need that game breaker, a guy who can just score 2 goals or get one for them real quick, because that seems to be their Achilles heel come playoffs. So I think he'd be a great fit on the Hurricanes to give them that extra pop in the playoffs.
Okay, Schneider, we're going to kick it back to you. Another big name on the trade block is Sean Walker. That's a $2.65 million cap hit pending. UFA also averaging a career best 19 minutes, 36 seconds time on ice per game this season. Top 3 trade targets.
Well, we're going to go 1 to 3 on this one because my third one might seem silly, but it makes sense to me. Number 1's the Leafs. They're always looking for defensemen, I find, and they need a guy like Sean Walker who can supplement some of their skill guys, can play tough minutes for them, just give them another presence on the back end. Number 2 I had there, was that New Jersey I had number 2? As we just talked about, some injuries, Dougie Hamilton, the young guys are struggling a little bit. They could definitely use some reinforcements if they're going to make a push with the new coach. And my number 3 is the Philadelphia Flyers. They're in the playoffs. Why is everybody telling them to trade this guy? Like, we're in the number 3 spot in the Metro. Let's keep him and make a run in the playoffs ourselves. I mean, I think they've outpaced expectations all year long. So let's not sell and let's reward the guys. Let's keep our guys here and see what they can do and reward them for how hard they've worked. So I think he should just stay a Flyer. Why do we have to trade him?
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
I do too.
I like that one to the tune of put up mine. Because Schneider,
Oh,
I've got the
some
number
overlap?
1 spot for Sean Walker is to be the Philadelphia Flyers. I think to stay there, because what you mentioned, these guys are in the playoffs, man. They're in the 3rd spot here. I wonder how much the Ristolainen injury, having him out, not knowing exactly what the time frame is there, and then the Drysdale injury, all of a sudden now, whether it's Nick Seeler and Sean Walker, like, you may have to keep them. And I don't mean have to keep them. They'd love to keep them. But when they were healthy with Risto and Drysdale, maybe it made those guys expendable, and those guys can go and fetch some good stuff here, because this is a team that's, they're going to be peaking even more so in future years. So, but man, I think that would be the number 1 spot right now with the situation they're in. The Red Wings, I think they're one. They've got some older guys that can defend. Probably a little bit better than maybe a Sean Walker, but Sean Walker pushes the pace. He's got great skating, and it gives you some different looks. And I'm really interested if they were able to land a defenseman like that could really connect the dots with some of their offensive players. And then the Nashville Predators, all of a sudden, man, we'll talk about them more later, but all of a sudden, this is a team that we're talking about. Where's UC Saros going? Where's these guys going? They might be buyers now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's something on the back end. I'm a big Sean Walker fan. You could add a lot, and it doesn't cost a ton. You can rent him right now. I'm looking forward to seeing who maybe signs him next year. him back healthy, he could be a beast out there in the ice, logging a lot of minutes.
The latest rumor was that the Flyers will either be trading Sealer or Walker, not both, but you know how rumors are.
That's right.
Especially with 3 days before the deadline. So who really knows? Let's move on, shall we? Vladimir Tarasenko, fellas, $5 million cap hit pending UFA, tied for fourth most playoff goals among all skaters over the past 10 years. That's 44 games. Corey Schneider, give us your top three. Number three.
Number three. I got to remember who I picked here.
Here we
Let's
go.
see.
Don't you worry.
LA
We'll
Kings.
reveal that for
Yes.
you.
LA Kings, number three. Again, I think they're pretty solid defensively still. Could always use a little extra juice. I think Tarasenko will probably cost a little bit less than some of these other guys. Gensel, Buchnevich, so he might be at a slight discount. So I think he's more affordable for certain teams. Again, the Islanders, I keep saying, if they can get a goal-scoring winger, it could definitely help them.
You're in on
push
the
in.
Isles
Hey,
right now.
I'm biased. Like I said, him in Pittsburgh, I'm not quite that level, but I do follow the Islanders more closely than other teams. And then the Rangers, they lost Hedl, they've lost Blake Wheeler. Rempe's a great story, but, if you can bring back Tarasenko like he was, I think, last year, he knows the system, he knows the team. He could slot in, kind of fill one of those voids on the wing. And give them some more forward depth up front, because with those injuries, I feel like they're lacking a little bit up front in terms of their overall depth. And like I said, a proven commodity in the playoffs, and somebody they know, again, from last year.
He knows the culture.
Yeah,
He's a good fit.
I think that could be a good fit again.
We're going to get a lot of hate mail. You didn't have Rempe on their roster right there with the addition.
I didn't make that roster, so
You didn't make- no,
that's
all
not,
right.
I don't want to get
He's
beat
like
up.
want to
sitting
clear
there in
out the
front of the
names.
screen.
I don't want to get beat up by
You
Rempe.
did not
so.
sully the name.
I did not.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
Because
Just
Rempe's
making
going to
sure.
show up at our studios.
Yeah, exactly. It's right around the corner. So.
All right, here's mine. What I got for Tarasenko, similar to you. The Boston Bruins. I think the Boston Bruins, they're going to.
Love that.
I don't think they're necessarily looking for. They're in the market for a center, and they have been. But at the same time, Vlad Tarasenko is a unique one. You mentioned it. With his 40 whatever some goals in his career and like 90 some
44.
playoff games,
It's ridiculous.
like he's incredible in the playoffs. Yeah, there's a lot of holes to his game. Don't get me wrong. He's not a complete player. But come playoff time, you need a goal. You want the game to switch on from one shot. He might be the best guy available for that. So
2019 with the Blues.
yeah, yes, he can get her done. So he's that's a spot there. Boston Bruins, the LA Kings, same thing before. They need a little bit of a jump start for their offense, I think, and he is that proven. And the Islanders, because this was linked. This was linked in the summer about him going there.
Yep.
And Lou Lamoriello, he likes to add that pop, and this is a player that can certainly add that. So those are three big spots I think that he can land. We'll see what ends up happening with him.
Listen, Isles fans, rejoice. It's a good time right now, especially if you're in this studio. Guys, moving on to Pavel Buchnevich, $5.8 million cap hit, signed through 24-25 season, recorded 191 points in 195 games since his trade to St. Louis. Schneider, back to you.
He's an intriguing player to me. He's got term left, so that doesn't work for every team, but I know some teams like to have that term, Carolina being one of them, so that's why they're number 3 on my list, because I know they like to acquire, it's well known that they like to acquire guys with term and not rentals. Cost certainty. So, again, same idea as Gensel, just giving them another trigger man, somebody who can make things happen offensively. I'm going to go Tampa Bay Lightning. Just as we talked about Kucherov maybe being the MVP this year without a lot of help, quote unquote, because Braden Point and Steven Stamkos are still great players, but I think they could use a little more depth to supplement those big four now. I guess you consider Brandon Hagel part of that. They could use a little more punch offensively in the playoffs. And then the Golden Knights, they've been, again, linked to everybody. Looks like they need some wing help with Mark Stone out. They got that cap space now, all that sweet cap space. So, again, they're not afraid to make the big move and not afraid of term and things like that. So they're a wild card to me. They can make anything happen at this point, I feel like.
Yeah, so Buchnevich is an interesting one to me because he's big. He's gotten pretty good production. I don't think we talk about what he's done enough and what he is as a player.
Flies under the radar.
Yeah, so, but the tricky thing, and this isn't in my 3, but St. Louis, they could just hold on to him and wait for the best time. Maybe the market's not bearing the fruit that they want. Yeah, I like
Great tandem over here.
Yeah, we finish each other's
sentences.
Yeah, oh my God, this is incredible.
This is going on the next NHL Now promo for sure.
But anyways, so yeah, they could wait later because I think there might be other teams that step up here in the summertime. Like I'm thinking the Devils might be one to step up to the table. Well, they need someone else, I think, to kind of complement Jack Hughes.
Yeah.
But anyways, this is what I'm going to stick with as far as teams in the playoffs are trying to be a contender right now. Hurricanes, all the aforementioned reasons that we talked about before. They need that some more scoring punch. Tampa Bay Lightning, they're always in the mix on players. It doesn't ever look like they can get something done because of their cap space. but they end up figuring it out some way
Yeah.
or another. But here he is last 3 seasons. I mean, you're talking about, you know, he's for the most part, except for this year, he's a point a game, over a point a game guy.
Yeah.
And then what was the number one here? We got Golden Knights. Because I think the Golden Knights, you talk about swinging for the fences. I mean, this is the New York Yankees of hockey. They every year go after the guys that maybe not everybody's talking about Pavel Buchnevich, but talk about making the needle move a little bit and what he can do to that team.
Good get.
And they need a little shot in the arm. They've been struggling lately.
Yeah, and they got Barbashev from the Blues last year, so they're familiar with each other, know each other's systems pretty well, I'm
Great
imagining.
point.
So, go back to the well.
Yeah.
Great
That's what I
point.
got.
And, with that Stone and the ruptured spleen and all that, with the time
There's a lot of
turn
uncertainty.
extremely uncertain, he could come storming back in the postseason. You never know.
Right, but that's the point too. With Stone out, and then the LTIR space they already
Exactly.
gotten from
Yep.
Jack, and now that, like this team, if it's not Pavel Buchnevich, they're doing something big. They
They
always
have
do.
some monopoly money right now.
do.
They'll figure it out. That's what this team does.
Yeah.
Cliche to say they're all in.
They're
Big.
Heyo.
no
Yeah.
checking.